Hey guys, what is up? American Pizza Books here, back again. I know it has been a little bit since I last uploaded, because that's what I'm best at. I'm best at neglecting this channel and then, not uploading for a month, sometimes months, sometimes even for years. But I am back, and the book I'm going to be reviewing this time around is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. So this is actually, it's the second book that I've read by Riley Sager. The first one I read was Home Before Dark. I read that back in July, I believe, June or July of this year, and I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was great. First ever Riley Sager novel. I had seen this author around. I know they've kind of blown up in popularity within the last few years. He writes under several pen names. This is one of his pen names. He's written other books as well, but I've mostly stuck to the Riley Sager books. I do have another one of his books. I forget which one it is at the moment. I believe it's Lock Every Door. I believe that's what it's called. It's like a pink book, actually, like a neon pink almost. But I read Home Before Dark, and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to read something else of his fairly soon. Because typically when I'll read an author, and unless I'm having a really particular craving for that author, I usually will only read one book by an author, and then devote attention to another author because I feel like it's only fair. But if I feel like a really particular itch to read a particular author, I'll read several books of theirs in a row, and that's usually only if they have a expansive catalog of works, which a lot of authors really don't like. But then again, I mean, it's hard to have as big of a catalog of books as someone like Stephen King does or someone like that. But anyways, so this one came out this year, I believe, and it's funny. I think that the author was drawing kind of a bit of inspiration from the Lizzie Borden rhyme, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her father however many of his whacks or however it goes. You know what I'm talking about. And this is how it goes. It says, at 17, Lenore Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. And that's kind of how the rhyme goes. And I read that, and I'm like, immediately reminded me of the Lizzie Borden rhyme, and that really intrigued me. But what this novel is about is our main character is Kit McDeer, and she's a caregiver, which is basically the same thing as a nurse, but I guess it's it's a step down or whatever, but it's essentially a nurse, essentially the same thing. And she's kind of embroiled in a controversy. She has been accused of murdering her mother. She was hired to actually take care of her own mother, and her mother ended up overdosing on, I believe it was pain pills of some sort. Please disregard the ambulance. I apologize for that. But she overdosed on pain medication because her mother is going through a very advanced stage of, I believe it's stomach cancer, and she basically gets accused of murdering her mother. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, so, I mean, if this is technically a spoiler, then I guess, don't listen to this section of this part of the video. But what she ends up doing, actually, is she leaves the pill bottle out. She doesn't actually administer, more pills to her mother. She gives her one, and then kind of, she tries to take the bottle away, but she can't stand seeing her mother in so much pain, so she kind of just leaves the bottle there and, is going to assume that she's not going to take the whole bottle, but at the back of her mind, she kind of knows that her mother will probably do just that because the pain is so great. And I think it kind of raises a good question, or maybe a debate or something. I'm not a debate, but I don't know. It kind of questions the morality of assisted suicide and that whole topic. I won't get into what my views on it are, but I know that's a very highly debated topic. And so I think that kind of raises some, just some questions and inner thoughts and things about that topic in this book. But, she herself is basically accused of this murder. She doesn't get, she's never actually prosecuted for it. She's never actually convicted of it because there's not enough evidence. and she's suspended from work from like 6 months. She tries to find work during that time period, but can't find it because no one wants to hire her because of the case around her. And eventually, she goes back to work to working for the company that she was suspended from. Except she gets her next job as a caregiver. She is assigned to Lenora Hope, and Lenora Hope is like a legend in that town because everyone thinks that she murdered her whole family in the family mansion. And when she gets assigned to be the caregiver for Lenora Hope, as you can imagine, Kit McDeer is less than enthused about it. She really doesn't want to take it, but because times are tough and because she doesn't really have a lot of options and because she's in dire need of just to make some money because her savings are drying out, she is forced to take this job. And she takes the job, and while she's there, she obviously meets Lenora Hope. But she begins to, notice certain things, and as the book goes on, you find out more and more and more. And obviously, you find out that there's more to the story than just the nursery rhyme alone and just the alleged crime alone from the alleged perpetrator. And that's all I'll say. I won't really spoil anything. I won't go into too much detail. But, so, I have to say, I really, really love this book. I really, really like this book. Just like with Home Before Dark, I think to start off, the pacing of the book, the pacing to me is absolutely flawless. It keeps you turning the pages. Just when you think you're going to set it down, like you're thinking, okay, you know what, I'm going to read this much, then I'm going to set it down. But then you find yourself flipping the next page and flipping the next page. It's just like that. It's such a cliche to say, but this book definitely is a real page turner, just like Home Before Dark was. So that was good. The pacing was flawless. The story, there's so many, and I don't know if this is like kind of like a formula with Riley Sager books, but you have certain expectations, and you kind of have. I mean, that there's going to be more that nothing, at least like with the story, with what's been established, that it's going to get all kind of turned on its head, and that you're going to find out things that you're not going to expect. But even still, like, you read the story, and you think, okay, well, maybe I think this person obviously was the one that did it, or this person is the one that's guilty, or this is actually what happened. You start to form theories in your head. But then Riley Sager, like, it takes those theories and expectations and just keeps like flipping them and doing a number of things with them, and like just thing after thing after thing keeps getting revealed. It's like left, right, like all these things that you don't expect. And I thought it was very, very well done. By the last quarter of the book is when things start to get revealed, and there's all these like just these little details here and there that you notice that you're just like, oh, well, maybe it was a mistake or whatever, but then you find out, oh, wait, those small things that I noticed that I thought were inconsistencies were put in there on purpose because it comes back later on, because those small little details come back later on when you find out more stuff. And I love that, because there's a character in this book, and I won't say the character's name, but it's an established character in this book, and you're told that the character has green eyes, but then you later hear another character refer to them as having blue eyes, and I was reading that, and I was like, wait a minute, like, huh? Like, no, green eyes, it's supposed to have green eyes, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe the author kind of made a typo, or maybe it's a mistake or something. No, it actually comes back later in the book. It actually was meant to be there and meant something, so I love that. Because in books, like many times before, I've read like there'll be a character that comes along and they'll be described as having like blue eyes, but then later on in the books, someone says they have brown eyes, and it's like, wait, what? And then like it doesn't come back to it, so it's like, okay, the author obviously like there was a typo and stuff that never got corrected. But in this book, little things like that actually are meant to be there and mean something, so I think that's really, really fucking cool. And just all the reveals and the twists and stuff is just crazy, because like I said, it keeps hitting you one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. So it was great. not at all what I was expecting. Maybe that makes me a little bit naive, but as in terms of like mystery novels go, because usually I tend to stick more with like horror and fantasy and stuff. And I would say that Riley Sager's books do have kind of like a suspense horror edge to them, while mostly being a mystery thriller, but they still have that sort of backdrop of horror, in my opinion. But so maybe it's because I don't read like mystery novels very much. But I did not. I guessed like nothing of what ended up being revealed in this book, of what ended up happening and what actually happened with the story and stuff. So that was really well done. I also thought the characters were really well done. Sometimes in mystery novels and stuff, the characters are kind of like paint by numbers and stuff. And I mean, you could say the same for the characters in this book, but I thought that they all had unique voices, unique personalities. I could tell, one from the other. No character was exactly the same as the other, which is good. Certain characters that you think you have them figured out, you don't, and they end up being like a completely different person than you thought they were. You also end up sympathizing with characters that you wouldn't expect to sympathize with in this book, but you end up sympathizing with them, and then it turns out there's a reason why you do. But again, I won't go into that because no spoilers or anything like that. But I thought that Kit McDeer's inner struggle and inner turmoil and like inner suffering, really, because of what happened with her mother, and as she starts to investigate this like long since cold case, she starts to investigate it more and more. She starts to get curious and wants to find out what really happened. But then as you go along further and further in the story, you think, well, is she only like investigating this case to kind of like reconcile with herself, her own guilt about what happened with her mother and stuff? And I just thought it was really well done. The main character I really liked. The side characters were all very well developed. This book is also told in it's told in the present tense, or when I say the present tense, I mean the events of the novel that are going on currently, and then you also have a point of view from Lenora in this book, which is told obviously which takes place way back in the late 20s when the murders took place, and it's kind of leading up to the murders. So I thought that was cool. Home Before Dark also had the same thing, where it had like the main character, obviously telling you what happens from the present tense, the present day where the story is happening, and then you have the story from what happened before that the book is based off of, which I won't get into that one, but basically the same thing is done in this book. And usually when it comes to like alternate timelines and stuff, I've always kind of had mixed opinions on it. I think that sometimes it can be done really well. Sometimes it just is not done very well at all, in my opinion. It just comes across as jarring because it takes you out of the story. At least for me, it does sometimes. But I think that Riley Sager does it really well. It's very seamless, so that was really good. And the book, it doesn't really go on it doesn't overstay its welcome. I believe it's like 400 pages, if that even. Let's say it's like 380 pages, give or take. So, I thought the length was good for what it was. I didn't feel like it went on. I didn't feel like it like went on for too long or anything like that. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend it. If you've not read Riley Sager, I would highly recommend. I know he has other works, but like I said, I've mostly, so far anyways, I've just stuck with the Riley Sager books. If you're looking to start with one, I would suggest Home Before Dark, but honestly, if you start with this one too, you can't really go wrong. This one's really good too. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. If you've read this book, if you've read anything by Riley Sager. Or if there's an author similar to this one, let me know about that too. And yeah, so that's it for this one. Peace, and you guys keep on reading.